The Empire Strikes Back. As I'm doing this recording, it is the 40th anniversary of the movie. I can't believe 40 years have passed of this film. I wasn't even born 40 years ago, so probably feels a little shorter to me, but for people who did grow up with it, probably feels like a really, really long time. Unlike my New Hope review, which I wonder if you guys have seen or not, I just uploaded it like a few hours ago. This is a more personal one because, for one, this is my favorite Star Wars movie, so I'm gonna gush about it a little more personally, but what can I say about Empire Strikes Back that hasn't already been said? For a long time before movies like The Dark Knight came out, this was the superior sequel that everybody went back to. There is a constant debate whether Godfather 1 or 2 was better, but Empire has always been the superior movie for a lot of Star Wars fans, and it is for me as well. It's a film that I have consistently gone back to, and in my opinion, it is the most well-crafted of the 9 Skywalker saga movies, and overall in terms of Star Wars. It's a film that has every single aspect of it done to perfection, and that is saying something considering how well A New Hope was done. But even now, watching it 40 years later, there's a sense of amazing tension, direction, writing, characterization, humor even, score, all of it top-notch and off the charts. There's so much you could say about Empire Strikes Back, but I will share a funny story with you because now's the time to do it. When I first saw this movie, it was almost 2 decades ago now, and I had just started to get into Star Wars. After I had got the DVDs for 4, 5, and 6, I was excited to watch them at home. And my father comes over to me and he says that, oh, you're about to watch these movies, you're gonna absolutely love them. Oh, by the way, in Empire, Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father. I remember hearing that, and at the time I didn't really care much about spoilers because it just sort of went over my head. I was like, I'm gonna see the movie anyway. But now, when I look back on it, I realize my dad just kind of ruined it. It's like that scene in The Simpsons where Homer gets out of the theater.
Wow, what an ending! Who'd have thought Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's father?
Thank you, Mr. Blow the Picture for me.
It's like that. Why would you do that? Come on, Dad. It's not like you're gonna tell me Return of the Jedi, Darth Vader dies, right? Oh wait, that's exactly what he did. Anyway, I'm gonna go back to the review now. So Empire Strikes Back begins essentially 3 years after the events of A New Hope. The Death Star has been destroyed, the Empire is looking for the rebels, and an Imperial probe droid lands on the ice planet of Hoth, and it has a possible location of them. Luke Skywalker is injured due to an altercation with a Wampa, and he gets a vision that he has to go find a Jedi Master named Yoda on Dagobah. As this is happening, Vader and the Empire are in pursuit, and they have found the rebels, and now suddenly they're in a situation where the rebels are pretty much cornered and they have to get out of there as fast as possible. But in the process, the Millennium Falcon is being consistently chased by the Empire throughout the entire film, and the ship's not doing so well on its own accord. And there's a bunch of other stuff, but you've seen this movie probably already, but if you haven't, I highly recommend checking it out. Even though I've said that the main spoiler of the film is Darth Vader being Luke's father, I feel like that's a thing in pop culture that's pretty much known. There's also a really great joke about it in the movie Pitch Perfect. Yeah, I'm gonna refer Pitch Perfect in this.
Guy gets the girl and that kid sees dead people and Darth Vader is Luke's father.
Oh, right, so you just happened to guess the biggest cinematic reveal in history?
Vader in German means father. His name is literally Darth Father.
But make no mistake, every time I watch Empire, it feels like the first time. There's something so magical and so beautifully done about this film that it makes for stellar viewing. Irvin Kershner's direction in this is magnificent. It has such a brisk, tense pace. It's one of the most well-paced movies I've actually seen, clocking in at about 2 hours and 7 minutes if you count in the special edition DVD stuff which has been done, not the newer altercations that have been made to the original 3 movies. This film feels like 15 minutes. It just consistently keeps moving, and it gets better and better with each passing scene. The stuff with the Millennium Falcon, Han, Leia, Chewie, 3PO, trying to override all sorts of things and try to get away from the TIE fighters and the Star Destroyers and the Super Star Destroyer in this one, and they're just constantly not being able to fix the hyperdrive. That was very tense. It made for some really engaging viewing. Luke going to Dagobah and meeting Yoda, who at the time was someone you just sort of looked at and was like, oh yeah, he was that awesome guy in the prequels. And now when you watch episode 5, if you go back and you watch it in the order that these movies came out in, it always feels so fascinating. fascinating. It's so great to have him as this character, and Frank Oz is wonderful. The stuff that they've done with the puppet is magnificent. Everything about this film, honestly, is grade A in my opinion, A plus even. Darth Vader in this movie is really, this is where I got to love Darth Vader even more. I already loved him a lot in A New Hope, but he wasn't in New Hope a lot. In Empire, he's the big bad guy. He is subservient to the Emperor, of course, as you find out in that scene with the meeting, and you get your first glimpse at the fact that his name is Anakin Skywalker because of the twist later on. But what I thought was so wonderfully handled was his menace has increased in this movie. He's even killing his own men a lot in this film. And there was such a sinister aspect to him throughout the film that every time he showed up, you actually felt he was extremely imposing. That's a sign of really great direction and writing, in my opinion. When Luke finally confronts him on Bespin, it's extremely unnerving because you know Luke is not a fully trained Jedi as of yet, and he's acting on premonitions that may not exactly be true. He's worried about his friends being in trouble, and granted, they are, but they're not in the life-threatening kind of danger that he believes they're in. But at the same time, he goes to help them, and in a lot of ways, it is to be noted that the Force and Vader's influence may have sort of lured him there. And I thought that was also wonderfully handled. Luke going against himself, where he's trying to figure out what kind of Jedi he wants to be, with the scene in the cave where he essentially strikes first and he decides to kill the foe Vader in the cave, and it turns out to be his face underneath it. It's also a really nice connection to the fact that, well, there's a big thing between the two, you just don't know it yet. Again, I can talk about the themes and symbolism in this movie quite a bit, and there is so much of that in this movie. A lot of this is such a powerfully done hero's journey, and the way Luke transforms between 4 and 5, especially when you see this, is outstanding. Again, you gotta give it to Lawrence Gaston for the writing of the script. I mean, it's just wonderfully handled. The score by John Williams, magnificent stuff. The love theme, the one that Han and Leia have, so beautifully handled. It's such a great piece of music, and even the connection that they have in this movie is wonderfully done. It's a perfectly handled romance, and one that I genuinely cared for. That's a sign of how personal these characters have become, and again, I can keep saying the words testament to good writing, testament to good direction, but it definitely is. The action in this film is amazing. The asteroid field scene is a thing for the ages, and it holds up so beautifully even to this day. The final lightsaber battle between Luke and Vader, awesome. My favorite lightsaber battle in the entire saga, even now. It's also my favorite looking movie in the entire saga. My favorite shot in Star Wars is not in this movie though, that is for another one, we'll get to that. But this film, every shot is just a painting. In fact, on a personal trivia note, the poster for Empire Strikes Back is the first poster I ever really got framed and put up in my house, so there is something to that. I actually still have the original DVDs, and I tried watching it the other day, and I realized that I bought them somewhere else, so the region code didn't find the PS4. Okay, that doesn't have anything to do with anything. I'm gonna move on now. But make no mistake, Empire rules when it really has to. This is a film that is of epic proportions, and it rightfully is one of the greatest movies ever made. Oftentimes I get asked the question about what is my favorite movie of all time, and frankly, I can't give you an answer. It's very tough to actually assume what your favorite movie is when films are gonna keep on going. For all I know, the next big movie will be my favorite movie of all time, or something else I see. And there are going to be those questions, but Empire is one of those names that consistently comes up whenever I talk about some of my favorites, and rightfully so. It's a film that stands the test of time, and even now, it ranks among some of my favorite movies of all time. I love revisiting it. I remember every single moment of it in my head, and I constantly keep going back to it, and it is still the prime example of a Star Wars movie. There's a lot of Star Wars stuff that I've liked ever since Empire came out, but for me, this is still the bar. To this day, this is still my favorite movie in the saga, and again, if you've not seen it, please see it immediately. It is a film for the ages. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Look forward to the review of Return of the Jedi coming up pretty soon after this too. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe, and I hope you're enjoying this format, and I'll see you guys at the movies.